Yo, Trev, what's going on, man? You know what day it is?
Yes, sir. It's Tuesday, Jay.
Well, hey, you know what that means.
I believe that means it's time for the Youth Sports Show.
Well, hit the music because it's time to get this thing rolling, big fella. Let's go!
All right, let's go. Hello, and welcome to the Youth Sports Show. It's a show dedicated to using sports to create positive change. Be ready to get inspired, uplifted, and empowered through thought-provoking conversations specific to the world of youth sports with some of the top minds in the game. I'm your co-host, Trevor Rosenthal, MLB All-Star and single-season save record holder for the St. Louis Cardinals, with Jason Holzer, co-founder of 40 Athletes and best-selling author. Jason, so good to see you again. How's life going on your end?
Hey, man, well, everything has a season in life, right? We're transitioning into summer season. And also, for my family, we're moving houses, so we're kind of in flux right now. We're really uncomfortable. But I found that though it's good to get yourself uncomfortable sometimes because you get stuck in old routines, different ways of doing things, and this causes you to do things differently. And sometimes you can find that you can be doing things a lot better when you realize that you have to do things differently because your life is going to be different. So, but overall, man, I'm excited about what's next. Really excited about our guest today, but what about yourself, man? How are things going on with you? I know you had a big trip here recently and back home now. So what's good with you?
Yeah, everything's going really well on my end. Thanks for asking. Still recovering from my Tommy John surgery, continuing to do the work there. And so that's going really well. And then also recently had the opportunity to go down to a Cardinals Astros game here in Houston, Texas, where we live. And that was a lot of fun. I was able to go down early, participate in or watch batting practice on the field. I took a couple of my daughters and one of their friends. And I say it was cool because I was able to actually spend time with a lot of former staff members, former teammates, guys that I worked with for a long time. And that really, brought up a lot of great memories and just stirred my ambition to return to the sport. So that was a lot of fun. But then I will say, I also, after batting practice was over and the game was going to start, I sat in the family section for the first time. And this was weird. I mean, my kids, my wife have sat in this family section for years. And this was my first time being there and being with other families of players and staff members. And man, what a different perspective. And
Yeah.
I think this ties in really well with our guest today. But I realize there's nothing that in the stands that you can have or that you really get that the players are experiencing in the field and in the clubhouse. My experience as a player is much different from my family watching in the stands. And so that for me kind of brought it all full circle. But our guest today is going to be able to, I think, dive in on that topic a little bit more, which I'm extremely excited about.
Yeah, it's funny, probably funny for you being on that other end of perspective, and maybe helps you also build your empathy and understanding too of what both sides of the coin look like. So, really cool that you got to experience that from a, you know, non-player perspective, but as you come to maybe trying to be the player again, now you're going to have an even more well-rounded perspective of how this whole professional sports landscape works. But hey, we're shouting out today. We're shouting out the Rawlings experience, man. They gave us a great experience a couple of weeks ago when we were down there in St. Louis. Super cool place. If you love baseball, make sure you check out the Rawlings experience. It's Westport Plaza in St. Louis area. And they have a lot of great things there for you. And it's baseball, different sports as well, but primarily baseball experience for you, all you baseball fans out there. Now, let's go ahead and bring our guest, Trevor. We got Lindsey Gleason on today, and she's the founder of TeamGLEAS. She is a former athlete, but she's turned entrepreneur. So she's taken what those skills she learned in athletics, turned them into a business. But she's dedicated to empowering young adults and families to travel around the world based on their life strategies or life stages, and specializes in providing multicultural educational experiences from early childhood all the way to graduate school. So really taking that sports approach and making a lifelong lesson approach. So, Lindsey, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Excited to have you on the show. How are things?
Thank
You're
you.
actually in the evening time. You're about ready to eat some dinner, aren't you?
I am. I'm in Greece right now. My family lives in Greece. for 6 months this year. So we've been here since January. We go back home at the end of this month, actually, to Buffalo, New York, and then we'll hit the road again. We are digital nomads. We're moving around a lot, and that I got that passion when I started traveling with sports, which we will get into.
Yeah, man, I don't know about you, Trevor, but Greek food is one of my favorite food in the whole world. I love me some good Greek food. So I'm kind of jealous that you're in Greece right now, just from a food perspective by itself.
Yes.
So, but
You're
let's
right.
get right into the first question though. So, you have a background, you're a founder of TeamGLEAS, one of the first sports agencies of its kind. And you must, in using your background in athletics, it really had probably help you drive that experience. So my question is, how did your involvement in sports help shape like your entrepreneurial spirit and drive those opportunities for student athletes? And then from before that, what kind of support did you get from coaches and parents that you could advise other parents and coaches to do that will help them along their sports journey as well?
Yeah, sure. So sports was my whole life growing up. I played a little bit of everything. Volleyball is what I played in college, but my main sport was gymnastics, which, Trevor, I know is one of your daughter's main sports. How old is she? Is it your 10-year-old?
She's 10, yes.
Okay. It brings back my childhood for sure. That was everything. So
That's
gymnastics, awesome. Basketball, lacrosse, softball, track and field. I have an older sister and a twin brother, and we were just always shooting hoops or peppering or tumbling in the front yard. It was just everything. So organized, unorganized sports, that is what taught me the essential life skills that you guys talk about. And all of it applies to entrepreneurship. All of it. Ownership, accountability, leadership, how to communicate with others, how to work with others. Resilience, big time, because you get a ton of no's when you start a company. So many no's. And you just have to be able to brush yourself off and get up again and go on for the next one. So everything I learned in sports has helped me. I think that a big part of it too is sports is so obviously competitive, so we're good at that. But it's mission driven and goal oriented. And so we're always seeking purpose and to work towards something. And so when I found a purpose of mine in grad school, I just ran with it. I just wanted to help as many people as possible have the same experience I did. And I was going to do it no matter what. So a lot of resilience there too with sports. Regarding my parents and my coaches, I was very lucky with my support system because they focused more on character and integrity than winning. And they also let me control my sports path, I guess. They were not living their own dreams through me ever. They let me direct, if I wanted to try a new sport, they would let me do that, which was very helpful too, just in becoming a better athlete, as well as connecting with more people, building more skills. But they listened to me, and they let me build my own skills, they let me make my own decisions, which helped me build trust in myself. So then with my coach as well, who I had so many coaches, right? Just like you guys, you play so many sports and then you're at so many different ages. So you have dozens of coaches, but there are certain ones that you remember forever and they taught you very specific skills. And for me, it was my gymnastics coach because she was like a third mom. I have a stepmom who was my bonus mom. And then I have a third mom who was my gymnastics coach growing up. I just happened to luck out. My coach who owned the gymnastics club, her daughter was the same age as me. So we became best friends. So when I started when I was 4, I basically either lived at my house, at the gym, or at her house. And so I was constantly around my coach and people who were wonderful mentors. And my coach was very hard on me, as she needed to be. And in gymnastics too, you have to every sport, you have to build such, intensity and determination, right? But gymnastics is something special. And Trevor, I'm sure you're realizing that with your daughter. But I had a coach who was hard on me, but also we had a very healthy relationship where I respected her. And my parents were, I'll get more into when maybe you ask more about advice for parents, but they were just hands off and very consistent with me. We didn't talk about where I messed up in a game or when I fell off a beam. Like, I knew all of that stuff. I was beating myself up about that, So they were just consistent. They were supportive. Whether I won or lost, I knew what I was going to get from them. So I really lucked out. That's a big tangent that I went on, but I think I covered it all.
No, that's that's exactly, what we talk about here on our youth sports show, and giving parents and coaches this big picture, holistic view. And from what you're talking about, I think it really kind of it allows us to step back, right? Because as parents and coaches, athletes, you get stuck in the day to day, and especially, whether it's good or bad, you can get really focused in on, man, like, oh man, this was get really, this is a good day, this is a bad day. I get caught up in the moment, and I lose perspective of what the ultimate goal is. And you mentioned some of those character traits that you felt have been translatable from your athletic career into your professional career. And I actually, in preparation for today, I wrote some of those down, and some of the things that I think about from my perspective, for myself and other guys that I played with. What does sports create people to be? And I wrote, it creates them to be leaders, team players, extremely effective, integrity, disciplined, experienced. I think there's a level of maturity that comes along with being in sports. Allows these people to be dynamic, and a great word that you said was resilient. And I think this ties in to the work that you're doing now. And I want to talk about that a little bit. Just talk about, specifically why you're encouraging athletes to continue on this journey, right? Like, myself included, we get to a point where the athletic opportunity starts to kind of go away, and you have to, for lack of better terms, you have to enter into the real world. You got to get a real job at some point. But from what you've seen, and maybe talk about your personal experience. This is something you did. You got to a point and you said, you know what? I want to continue on this journey. I want to continue to find opportunity to be involved in my sport, because obviously you felt like you were getting something from it. You enjoyed it, but it was also creating you to be all of these adjectives that I listed earlier. So yeah, maybe from your perspective, what are the key lessons, values sports instill, and why are you encouraging athletes to continue on this journey?
So out of college, when I finished, I played D2 volleyball, as Jason said. I wanted to be an athletic director. That was my, this is what I want to be. So I got to go to grad school if I want to work in college sports. So we want to hang on to our sport, right? Because that's our identity, which is dangerous. And we're learning that. So we have this identity, and I was not going to play pro. I'm like an average 5'3" libero. I'm not, I have friends who are 6'5", Penn State, 4-time national champion. She actually runs the business with me. Blair Brown Lipstick. She's amazing. Those are the girls who are getting contracts. Not me. It was like a dream of mine. But then I realized, not in the cards for me. Fine. How can I stay in sports? I'll be an AD. I'll go be a grad assistant. So that's what I was looking for, which is what so many college athletes, when they retire, that's what they try to do, because they want to coach. I'm not made to be a coach, and I know that. So I was going to be a GA for my athletic director at Lemoyne College. That was set up. They offered it to me. I had a full ride MBA. I was ready to go. Then I luckily fell on this ad that said Masters Volleyball England. I was like, what is this? I've never seen these words together. And I checked it out, and I'm reading, and I'm like, okay, go to grad school, get a master's in 1 year. It's half the price. You can play volleyball. Doesn't matter about NCAA eligibility because once you live in America, eligibility doesn't mean anything. And I'm like, is this real? Like, there's no way. I've never heard of this. It's got to be a scam. And so I was just like, no way. I'm not telling anybody about this. They're going to think I'm nuts. But it was like, I love trying new things. I love taking risks. This is all part of sports as well. And what I learned there. So even though I had this nice, cushy, like free MBA back to a campus that I loved, I know I wasn't going to grow there as much as if I left my own country, gone to a country I'd never been to, and just like wung it and went to go see, like, is this legit? If it's not, what happens? I fly home in a week. And then I say, well, that was nuts. But it wasn't. It was real. It was legit. And then by being there and meeting people from all over the world, playing my sport again, which this is the only way little Lindsey is going to play overseas. Okay. Because I get to play for a college team in the UK where I was one of the best players because the UK wants to recruit us, former NCAA players, to help build their sports programs.
Yeah.
Because our talent in America, it's because of youth sports. We start playing when we're 4 years old. Like, we take it very seriously. That's why we're so good. So, and I will say, you know, TeamGLEAS has been around for 10 years now. I went 11 years ago, 12 years ago and played. When I go back and I watch the level of play now in the UK, it's awesome. Like, it's just continued to improve, which is great. But anyways, now
we'll talk about that too. Like, talk about, you know, like you said, going from maybe being lower on the roster in the US to being number one on the roster in the UK. Like, for you as an individual, that's a big difference in your role. And then obviously the people that you're influencing, like, that's huge. You know, you're changing potentially the sport, the culture in a whole nother place and bringing your experience from here. So
yes,
I'm sure that was a big change for you.
Yeah. And so I was a starting libero because I went to a D2 school. You know, it wasn't a great, I love Lemoyne. It is an amazing program, right? But I did well in the NCAA, but what now I see, and I'll speak more to my players who are going now, because it's more similar to what a player would be experiencing who's going, you know, soon. These NCAA athletes who are going to join the British teams, coaches in the UK love us, NCAA players, because we bring all the skills that we talk about to that team. Players in the UK look at an NCAA player coming. I feel like I'm saying all these like acronyms and I don't want to confuse myself. We go to the UK and they really look up to these players from America who are amazing, and they're 22 years old, 23, 24, and they're mentors now. These are guys who are just grateful to play. And so they've to go through our program, you don't have to be a current senior. You can be 3 years out. In fact, I love working with players who are 1 or 2 years out because they're just grateful to get back on the court, pitch, in the pool, etc. So it's this, we bring our leadership skills, we bring our talent of the game, and we're just uplifting the level over there. I mean, it's really amazing to see also where the scholarship opportunities in the UK that are available now, because even colleges in the UK are realizing what an incredible recruitment avenue athletics are, which they didn't do that before. They're very academic focused. When I started TeamGLEAS and I went to sell this program and this offering to universities, I would often get, you know, someone in the academic department being like, nobody's going to invest in this. Like, we don't care about sports like you do in America.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but there's so many benefits that you just don't understand yet. Meaning Americans are going to come, pay higher international tuition fees for your school, We're going to build your reputation around America. All these, all these things that are not even necessarily sports related, but more international office related. It's just, that goes back to the resilience though, of being told you don't get it by someone else. Like, I don't think that opportunity is here. And I was like, no, it is. Like, I know it is. And so more and more universities are realizing, and they're investing in sport, and they're coming to us because they want American players. And it's just super cool to see the transition.
Yeah. And we'll continue this conversation in 20 seconds. But first, a word from 4D Athletes. Are you looking to use sports to build exceptional leaders ready for any season of life? If you're a coach or a parent, check out 4D athletes.com, where we have online courses for parents and coaches that will help teach athletes the best way to become the best version of yourself, regardless if you're a parent, coach, or athlete. Again, that's 4dathletes.com. Be sure to sign up for our free Mamba Mentality ebook when you visit the website. Now, back to the show. Lindsey, that's a lot of great insight, especially, from a international college landscape, understanding different, ways sports can be utilized and using sports to your advantage as opposed to being quote unquote used by sports, which happens so often here in America. People get caught up in the pressures, I got to have this trainer, I got to be specialized in this, I got to do this to get my opportunities. And it's refreshing to hear that you have other opportunities that you can play at a less intense, high pressure level.
Exactly.
But still have the experience of playing in college. And so that's what I want to ask you is, how do you think by participating in sports, we can help those youth develop those essential leadership skills, teamwork skills? And what's one or two tips for parents and youth coaches on developing and prioritizing these skills? And also, obviously the physical skills are important, but really by developing those leadership and life skills can help them with the physical skills as well.
Sure. So first, youth athletes are inevitably going to develop those skills just by being in a sports environment. They have to interact with people, and they're going to get feedback if they're not interacting well, right? So even just the communication skills, teamwork, leadership, you're putting your kids in an environment where they at least have an opportunity to step up if they're that type of player, right? There's captains on every team. There's non-captains on every team. Not everyone is, going to be the leader on a team. And that's also okay, because my advice to parents is to focus on having fun, letting them have fun at that age, in that youth, when they're just starting 10, 11, 12, not putting any pressure on them and looking at sports, youth sports, more as an opportunity for them to build those essential life skills at that age. Never as a solution to pay for college, because 2% of high school athletes get scholarships. 1% gets full scholarships. And if you ever put that pressure on your kids, well, you have to be the best because we have to pay for college, it's too much pressure. They're going to be working at it for the wrong reasons. They might burn out. They could get resentful. So it's not a solution for college. It gives students an opportunity. They can play even collegiate club. Collegiate club is awesome. I played club for 1 year because I transferred in and out. I played for 1 year. The level was so high. It was a D1 school that I transferred into. And there's no way I was going to make the D1 school because there were a bunch of Amazons. And not me. And so I try out for the club team, and I'm like, oh my God, am I going to get cut from this club team? It was so good. And my club team could have beat my D2 team in the NCAA. And so there's all sorts of opportunities. They don't have to be the best. My twin brother played club because his college didn't have a men's volleyball team. And he's now a Division II men's volleyball coach. He built the first D2 team in Buffalo, New York. He's crushing it. He's doing amazing as a coach. He didn't have to play in the NCAA. So just know that there's all different levels and opportunities, and sports will open doors way later when they're, even you can consider, this is a whole other conversation, but college sports as an undergrad. I'm sorry, college sports in the UK as an undergrad. Undergrad degrees are 3 years in the UK. They're a fraction of the price. But if they play in college in America, then they can play overseas. Doesn't matter the level they are if they want to go to grad school. And TG, we're talking more inside our company. We're talking more and more with companies that have been created to support college athletes through their mental health, specifically through that retirement of leaving the NCAA and that identity crisis that happens when you lose your identity, because you've always introduced yourself as an athlete. You lose your purpose, goals, and a community. And so now we are offering players the option to, it's kind of like this nice transition going through TG and playing sports in the UK and getting a master's degree. It's kind of like this nice transition because you're benefiting your future. You're coming home with a piece of paper. Like, it's a very productive way to travel. And you still have sports in your life, but you're practicing 2 days a week. You have 1 game a week. You're not traveling on the weekends. Like, it's a very holistic approach. They're all about participation, having fun, inclusivity in the UK. So it's this very healthy way to end your career.
That's that's so cool. I love just hearing your story. Obviously, what you do in your work with TeamGLEAS, TG as you call it, and it makes me think about, like, okay, where did this all come from? And you briefly mentioned the story of when you first brought up the website and you quickly clicked out. You're like, oh no, like, this isn't for me. And I can't imagine what it was like when you finally decided and you're on the airplane, you get off, and that introductory period is always, we kind of hype it up in our mind. I think even as parents and coaches, we worry about our players, we worry about our kids going into these unknown environments. For me, it's when I got drafted and first showed up in South Florida on a team of Latin American players where I was the only one who spoke English, and then other instances throughout my career where I get a phone call at 2:00 in the afternoon. I've been traded and I have to get on a plane and go across the country and walk into a locker room with a bunch of new teammates and try and form new relationships. And I think in our minds, and I'm sure this was your experience too, and I would like to hear you talk about it. But it ends up not being as scary as we thought it would. We meet new people, we form new relationships, and all of this. I'll let you talk about that story here in a second, but I think just for the listener, for the parents and coaches who are listening, just hearing your story should be a huge encouragement of seeing what sports can do, what they can provide, how we can leverage them how we can leverage sports as a tool for our own development, and not put it on this pedestal of just looking at performance and numbers and data and the scorecard, things that the sport produces in and of itself. But your story should be a huge encouragement to anybody out there of, like, okay, there's more to life than the win or loss column of this specific game, and there's a lot of good that can come from it. So yeah, tell us, I'm interested to hear, tell us about what it was like getting off the plane in the UK.
So I remember I was like in there by myself, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this, I have no idea if this guy is going to pick me up when we get there. And like, that's super scary for a dad to hear, right? So, but we knew I had been put in touch with other players who were, who played in the NCAA as well, and were going to be on my team. So I'm like, okay, other people are doing this. And he's like, okay, we're going to pick you guys up. We're going to bring you to meet the other players, and then we're going to bring you to your apartment. And we're like, okay. So we get picked up. Oh God, when I say it, it sounds like so shady. We get picked up in a van, and then we get brought to, no, culture again in the UK is very different. And we're all, 21 to 24 at this point. We get brought to like a local pub, and there's like 40 other athletes there who have just come from the States. And I'm like, I'm not the only one who fell for this. Like, okay. And they played all different sports. And once I met them, it took obviously a couple weeks to get adjusted. But once I met them, I was like, oh, my people, they're athletes. They care about academics. They're curious about traveling. Even if this is their first time, they just want to see the world and have different experiences. Nice. And so just like you, I imagine when you get into, a new locker room, you all care about the same thing. You all know you're on the same team. You have the same goal.
You go from one locker room to the next, one sports team to the next, and you realize, oh, it's all kind of the same. Like we all kind of have the same interest.
Yeah. Right. And that was just so reassuring that there was someone on the other side who was taking care of us. And now that's a huge part of my job my job working with players is to squash all the skepticism that I felt. Like, because once I was there, like you said, Trevor, it's not as big of a deal. It's not as big of a risk as it seemed, as everyone back home thought. Oh my God, are you nuts, Lindsey? Like, is it college even real? Turns out it's top 100 university in the world. I had no idea. But now, now I get to, explain to players, this is the college. This is how it ranks to the, U.S. colleges back home. I put them in touch with coaches. They, we submit applications for them. We help them. I wanted to streamline the process. And so I will take like 30 seconds to share the origin story of
please do.
How I started it.
And that's what I was going to say. Can you imagine if you would have never followed up on this opportunity, TeamGLEAS wouldn't even exist today.
Yeah. I would have regretted it forever. And that's the thing too. That's what ultimately made me take the leap, because I said to myself, like, if this is real, if I find out this is real in like 5 years and other people are having this experience, I'm going to regret it forever. I'm going to be disappointed in myself. I'm going to wonder what if, and that's the worst. That's like my biggest fear, having any regrets. So we know why I started TG, because I wanted to help more players have the same experience. And we've now helped more than 400 players, and we want to help, thousands. So we're working on it. But the how is I was going to grad school for business. In my business school, again, apparently one of the top 100 in the world, learned that later, which was great. It was an amazing business school. Nice. And they were holding a Dragon's Den competition, which is Shark Tank in America. So my business school, it was just for students. You had to be enrolled to participate. And I looked at this as a really good learning opportunity. And this is where life skills from youth sports come into play too, right? Like I was always, what can I say yes to? What can I learn from? I was very had a growth mindset. So I entered this business competition. I had no idea at the time. I just thought, this is cool. Like, I'll learn something. And eventually you have to pitch something and like propose something. So the organizers were like, Lindsey, like, what is your idea? So I just like locked myself in my room one day and I was like, what do I love? What problem have I had that I think could have been solved way better? And it was this. It was bridging the gap between all these American athletes who are phenomenal athletes who don't want to give up their sport, but they're forced to. And then all these college teams overseas who want these guys, but there's nobody connecting them. So I was like, all right, I'm going to pitch this. And wow. I was a finalist. And then I started it while I was in grad school.
No way. What a cool story.
Yeah.
Well, Lindsey, it was great having you on the show today. Thank you for joining us. Really, really, really cool. And for me, my thought was like, man, just take the leap. But I want to ask you, though, a couple questions is, any final little nugget of wisdom that you have left for the audience? And then how can we connect with you, learn more? Where do we learn more about TeamGLEAS? And again, just thank you for your time and sharing your wisdom and your story with us today.
You're welcome. The last thing that I want to emphasize is, again, just parents, let your kids have fun. Let them have fun so that the opportunities can come and continue it, and they can take advantage of them. Be as hands off as you can. They have coaches. They don't need another one. I remember, I feel like every athlete too remembers being in middle school or high school, and that one parent that just would not stop yelling and would just be like, pass the ball to my daughter. It's not fun for everyone. So provide the environment and set them up for success, and just focus on having fun.
Otherwise your kid's going to go to the UK to get away from you.
Yeah, then they're out. They're gone long before they're 22.
Yeah.
And last thing, if anyone is interested in connecting, you can follow us on Instagram at TeamGLEAS, TeamGLEAS. My email is lindsay@teamgleas.com. And if any parent has, maybe someone who's already a son or daughter who's already in college, or knows someone who might be interested in this experience already, they can go to teamgleas.com/get started, and everything they need to know will be there.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, Trevor, hey, man, great show as always. We got a lot of great guests coming up, especially as we dive more into our really understanding like what youth sports is all about. And that's why we're calling it the Youth Sports Show, because it's all about how do we make youth sports a positive experience for coaches, parents, but most importantly, the kids that are playing the games themselves. And make sure you follow Trevor on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn as well, especially if you're a coach, parent. He has some great stuff that he always posts. And Trevor, appreciate you being here, man. Appreciate your insights and wisdom so as we continue to move forward.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. And thank you so much, Lindsey. I think this conversation, I was excited about this when I saw your name on the roster and we were going to be able to have this conversation. I think your story just gives a good look at the untraditional ways in which sports can impact an individual. And so cool to hear of your success. I love this story, your Shark Tank story, and ultimately what that's led you to do today. And and that's what this is all about. Jason, myself, we're passionate about giving back through our own experiences. My experience with sports, I want to help the next generation not make the same mistakes that I make and be even better than I was. And you are doing exactly that. So I want you to know that I'm encouraged by your work and excited to see all the developments that come with TeamGLEAS. I hope everybody got the message and enjoyed the story. Please, if you have an athlete, or if you're potentially going to have an athlete at some point, keep Lindsey in mind and keep her organization I'm sure you're always available and willing to help. And along those lines, be sure to check out 4dathletes.com, all the resources for parents, coaches, and athletes. Remember to follow 4D Athletes and Jason on social media as well. As far as our youth sports show, we have so much dynamic content coming your way. Our guests keep getting better and better. Matt Carpenter and now Lindsey Gleason, and even more to come. So thank you so much for your time today. And Jason, I appreciate you as well.
Yeah, man. All right, that's a wrap for this episode. If you liked the episode, make sure you give us 5 stars, leave a review. Thanks again for tuning in to the Youth Sports Show, and we will see you next time.